The Whitmore family's quarterly brunches weren't really about catching up. They were about comparing assets. This morning, in a marble-clad penthouse in downtown Miami, promised more of the same. I took my seat by the balcony, quietly sipping orange juice while my relatives tried to outshine one another. Just picked up a beachfront condo in St. Bart's, Bryce boasted, sliding his sunglasses up into his styled hair. Neighbors, with 2 pro athletes. And cute, Simone chirped, tapping at her diamond bracelet. We just bought a chateau outside Bordeaux. Comes with a vineyard and a helipad. I let the chatter roll past me. If only they knew. Jasmine, Aunt Lorraine said, her tone honeyed but sharp. You've been quiet. Bryce leaned closer, smirking. Still living in that little apartment, huh? And in Orlando, no less, Simone added, clearly delighted. Isn't that near the theme parks? I smiled into my glass. That little apartment complex was actually my first major redevelopment project. It now operated under Solera Equity Group, my firm. They thought I was just a tenant. In truth, I was the founder and CEO. I like the location, I said simply. You're 33, Aunt Lorraine said, patting my hand like a child. Time to think about building something real. Real? Try a $1.5 billion 0-cent portfolio that included luxury towers, retail centers, and yes, Whitmore Plaza, the very building where this brunch was held. I'd acquired it 3 months ago. Quietly, through a blind trust no one in this room could connect to me. I'm doing just fine, I replied, setting my glass down and folding my napkin. And for the first time all morning, they had nothing left to say. Rice smirked. You can't even qualify for a mortgage. I leaned back in my chair and let the comment hang. Because in about 2 weeks, the commercial lease renewal for Whitmore Plaza would land on their desks. And guess whose name would be on the letterhead? Dad finally looked up from his mimosa. Now, Bryce. Not everyone's gifted with your flair for timing. Jasmine made her choices, Aunt Lorraine sighed, shaking her head like I'd abandoned some golden destiny. Maybe as an influencer, or the trophy wife of a crypto founder. They assumed I spent my days cold calling renters or begging landlords to list their properties. To them, I was still the family's quiet question mark. What they didn't know was that Jasmine Cole, black sheep of the Whitmores, was also Solera Equity Group, the low-profile powerhouse quietly reshaping the Florida real estate landscape for nearly a decade. Speaking of real estate, Simone said with a knowing gleam, did you hear about the takeover on Palmetto Drive? Some firm bought the whole retail row. They're gutting it, she added with mock concern. Your little place is right next door, isn't it? I kept my expression perfectly neutral. I was the buyer, and I wasn't gutting anything. Palmetto Row was a heritage district, hand-painted tilework, mom-and-pop storefronts, legacy tenants who'd weathered 3 recessions. We were preserving it. Upgrading, not erasing. Really? I said mildly. That's news to me. Please, Bryce scoffed. You'd need a trust fund just to get in the room. If you get pushed out, Aunt Lorraine offered, too sweetly, you can always come stay with us. We've got a guest suite and plenty of contacts in the local market. I'm fine where I am, I said, and so is my landlord. Simone chuckled. You can't play small forever. Coal used to mean something in this city. It still did, just not in the way they thought. Among developers, Solera was known for ethical investments and neighborhood revitalization, the opposite of their luxury towers that displaced entire blocks. Dad set his glass down. Actually, he said, this brunch is partly business. The board's concerned about the new owner of Whitmore Plaza. I smiled. Are they now? I tilted my head. Oh? Solera Equity acquired a controlling stake 6 months ago, Dad said, his voice low. No one knows who's behind it. Could be international money. Rice nodded thoughtfully. Has to be. These global firms love iconic properties. If only they knew. The so-called foreign mystery investor was sitting right here, wearing a second-hand linen blouse and ballet flats from a clearance rack. And now, Dad went on, they're asking difficult questions, especially about the building's financials. Ah yes, difficult questions, like why Bryce charged his jet ski lease to the operations budget, or how Simone's 5-figure spa retreats somehow qualified as strategic planning sessions. "I'm sure it's just standard protocol," Aunt Lorraine said quickly, fingers fiddling with her pearl bracelet. "The Cole name still carries weight." "That's the problem," Dad said. "This Solera person doesn't care about names. They've initiated a full-scale audit." The mood shifted, like the air had thickened. Their laughter dulled. I saw it, panic blooming beneath the polished surface. An audit would do more than rattle a few skeletons. It would bulldoze the entire house of cards. "Maybe Jasmine could help," Simone piped up sweetly. "She's in real estate, right? Maybe she knows someone at the management office." And suddenly, just like that, the family pariah became a possible asset. "I mostly handle boutique properties," I replied, my tone easy. "Nothing the scale of Whitmore Plaza." "For God's sake," Bryce snapped. "You can't lift a finger for your own family." Aunt Lorraine shot him a look, but no one else jumped in. Dad returned to scrolling on his phone, detached once more. They had no idea how involved I already was. Just not in the way they wanted. Tomorrow morning, Solera Equity would issue a formal statement. Effective immediately, Whitmore Plaza was under complete operational overhaul. No more backdoor budgets. No more sweetheart deals with relatives. No more treating a corporate asset like the family's personal slush fund. I glanced around the penthouse, art curated with building reserve funds, velvet sectionals billed 3 times above cost, fixtures installed by Simone's fiancé's firm with laughably padded invoices. "Anyway," I said, standing and smoothing my linen blouse, "some of us have early starts." Simone snorted. "Off to tour more fixer-uppers in Little Havana?" I slid my worn leather tote over my shoulder. Inside it, board presentations, legal filings, and asset strategy documents worth more than anything in this overpriced penthouse. "Oh, Jasmine," Aunt Lorraine called out in her saccharine voice. "Next time, try dressing a little more polished. You're still a Cole after all. Appearances matter." I smiled, walking toward the elevator. "Don't worry," I said. "Tomorrow, I'll look exactly how the Coles expect." They just didn't know I already ran the empire they thought they owned. If you've been silently rooting for Jasmine from the start, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel so you're the first to see how this family reacts when the woman they mocked walks into the boardroom with full control. The next morning, I stood in my actual office, a sunlit penthouse suite high above downtown Miami, ready for the moment I'd orchestrated for over 12 months. Layla, my executive assistant, entered with practiced precision, placing a cappuccino beside my keyboard. "The Whitmore Plaza board's assembled. Your family showed up early. Looks like they're lobbying the independents." I grinned, imagining Bryce trying charm over desperation. "Audit packets." All delivered. The forensic review revealed more than we expected. She hesitated. "You sure you want to go through with this? There's no undoing it." "They need to understand," I said quietly, turning to the window. "Legacy doesn't excuse corruption." In the glass, my reflection was calm, clear, and finally, undeniable. Gone were the linen blouse and ballet flats. Today, I wore a deep navy Altuzarra suit. Precise tailoring. Quiet power. The kind of outfit Aunt Lorraine once imagined I'd wear to impress a husband. Instead, I'd wear it to dismantle their illusion of control. "The ownership announcement goes live in 20 minutes, Layla said, handing me a sleek tablet. "Once it hits, there's no more mystery." "Perfect," I replied, picking up my briefcase. "Let's begin." The boardroom at Whitmore Plaza fell silent as I entered. My family was huddled near the far end. Underprepared, overdressed, and visibly anxious. "Excuse me, this is a closed session," Bryce snapped. "Who the hell are you?" I calmly set my briefcase at the head of the table. "Jasmine Cole," I said, "founder and sole owner of Solera Equity. The firm that now owns this property, and several others, your family mishandled." Lorraine's face drained of color. Simone opened her mouth, but no words came. My father sat frozen, his hand tightening around a Mont Blanc pen. "Jasmine," he whispered. I gave a polite nod. "Good morning." I opened my case and began distributing thick audit folders. "Shall we take a look at your accounting?" "This is absurd," Bryce sputtered. "You're just—" "What?" I asked. "The underachiever? The one in discount shoes?" Simone blinked rapidly. "But you show rentals." "I work," I said. "And I built something real, quietly, ethically." The independent board members leaned in, watching the dynasty unravel. "These folders," I continued, "document every diverted fund, every bloated invoice, every business dinner charged to maintenance accounts." I slid one last file across the table. "Bryce, would you like to explain the $2,300,000, 0 cents in renovation costs that funded your St. Bart's condo?" His face flushed so violently I thought he might faint. "Or, Simone," I continued, flipping the next tab in the binder, "perhaps you'd like to explain your fiancé's invoices flashing triple the market rate for standard HVAC repairs." "You'd drag your own family through this?" Aunt Lorraine gasped, clutching her pearls. "No," I said calmly. "You dragged yourselves. I'm just making sure someone holds up the mirror." Dad finally spoke, his voice low and urgent. "Jasmine, sweetheart, we can explain." "Don't," I said, holding up a hand. "I watched this family treat Grandfather Whitmore's legacy like a personal trust fund. While you dismissed my modest life, I was building something enduring, on principle, not pretense." "But why?" Simone whispered, dazed. "Why hide it?" "I didn't hide anything," I said. "I lived simply. I invested intentionally. You assumed wealth had to flaunt itself." "The Palmetto Drive units," Bryce stammered. "You actually live there?" "I own them," I said, "and much of the surrounding block. And no, I'm not demolishing it, because some of us believe success should serve people, not bulldoze them." Suddenly, a ripple of buzzing filled the boardroom. Phones vibrated. One of the independent directors looked up, eyes wide. Solera Equity confirms CEO's identity. Jasmine Cole, long-dismissed member of the Whitmore family, revealed as owner of $2 billion, 0 cents real estate portfolio. Lorraine fumbled with her screen. "Named among top ethical developers," she read aloud. "Affordable housing. Heritage restoration." "This will destroy us," Simone murmured, color draining from her face. "No," I said. "This will protect you from yourselves." Effective immediately, Whitmore Plaza will operate with full transparency. No more backdoor contracts, no more budget gymnastics. "And if we don't agree?" Bryce tried to sound confident, but his hands shook. I leaned in slightly. "Then I'll deliver these findings to the IRS. And they're far less polite than I am." The room fell still. "What do you want?" Dad finally asked, his voice subdued. "I want you to remember what the Cole name stood for. Before all this," I said, locking eyes with each of them. "Grandfather Whitmore didn't build empires. He built communities." I gathered the audit folders with deliberate calm. "You have a choice. Work with me to rebuild that legacy," I said, voice steady, "or find another place to live. I hear there are charming efficiencies in Little Haiti." I turned toward the door. "Jasmine, wait." Dad's voice halted me. "Feel I was wrong about you." I paused, then nodded. "Yes, you were." The days that followed felt like something out of a prestige drama. Headlines flooded every feed. Miami heiress exposes family empire in stunning corporate coup. Aunt Lorraine stepped down from every civic committee she chaired. Her public image couldn't weather the fallout. Simone's fiancé's contracting business shuttered within a month of the audit findings. But not all of it was sour. Bryce, facing accountability for the first time in his life, enrolled in a certificate program in urban development at Florida International University. Simone began volunteering at a women's transitional shelter in Overtown. She told me it gave her more fulfillment than her gallery launches ever had. He asked to shadow my next investment pitch, not as the patriarch reclaiming his throne, but as a learner. For the first time, he truly wanted to understand what I had built. 6 months later, I sat in my Palmetto Drive apartment, yes, I kept it, reviewing our new quarterly performance. Whitmore Plaza was thriving, occupancy was steady, vendors were paid on time, and local businesses were making real gains. A soft knock pulled me back. I opened the door to find my mother. She wore jeans. No pearls, no heels. The simplicity threw me. "I got your invitation," she said, holding up the card. "The courtyard holiday party," I replied. "Not really your thing." "No," she admitted, eyes sweeping the cozy space. "But I'm learning maybe thing isn't the point." She picked up a photo. Me at 23, grinning, holding my first real estate license. "I never asked," she said gently. "Why this path?" "Because I wanted to build something real," I replied, "not just buy it and brag about it." "And now," she murmured, "you control more than all of us combined." "I do," I nodded. "But control was never the goal. Purpose is." She looked at me for a long moment. "Will you teach me?" "Come tonight," I said. "Meet the families who've lived here for decades. Hear their stories. That's where legacy begins." That evening, I stood at my window overlooking downtown Miami, where the city lights shimmered like quiet applause. In the distance, Whitmore Plaza stood tall, not as a shrine to excess, but a reclaimed symbol of accountability and care. Beneath me, the Palmetto Drive complex hummed with gentle life. Restored balconies, tiled murals, herb gardens planted by tenants. A building once seen as a teardown was now a cornerstone of community. My phone buzzed. Partnership offers, interview requests, conference invites. Solara Equity was now synonymous with values-driven investing. But I kept my calendar light, my mornings slow. I wasn't chasing headlines. I was building something that would last longer than any headline ever could. Because sometimes, the person they dismiss becomes the one they must look up to. And the strongest success stories aren't the loudest. They're the ones that endure. A week later, at the Palmetto Drive holiday party, I stood near the garden lights, watching my family slowly adjust to a world they once dismissed. Mom sat beside Mrs. Alvarez, who had lived here 41 years, listening as if it were the first time she truly heard someone. Bryce was hanging lights with Mr. Daniels, our Vietnam vet and longtime resident. Simone was handing out tamales, laughing freely with children who'd made her sugar ornaments. They were beginning to understand. Real wealth isn't about possession. It's about preservation. What you uplift, what you honor. Dad joined me near the cocoa stand. "You know," he said, "your grandfather believed buildings should protect people, not just profit from them." I nodded. I found his old journals, pages of notes about keeping rents fair, helping small businesses. We lost sight of that. He looked at me, not with shame or pride, but recognition. "You could have destroyed everything we built." I smiled gently. That was never the point. I wanted to build something that would outlive all of us. Because in the end, if this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. What quiet victories have you claimed while no one was watching? What legacy are you building? Let's talk about the hard work that no one claps for, the dreams that take time, the resilience it takes to keep going when no one believes in you, but you. And if you're standing at the edge of your own turning point, don't waste your breath trying to cope. Start small, start quietly, but start with purpose. Support this journey by subscribing to the channel. There are more stories to come, stories about second chances, silent strength, and the kind of success that doesn't need validation. Because legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you create. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming exactly who they said you'd never be. So subscribe, stay with me. Let's build something that lasts.